This is a real map, published in London in 1877. Follow the thin red line. It traces one journey across Tibet, a country that, back then, was closed to every European alive. When our team pulled this map from the archives of the Royal Geographical Society, one detail stopped us cold. The man who surveyed this line was not allowed to carry a single instrument. So he walked it, every inch of it, by counting his own footsteps.
He was not a soldier or an explorer with a caravan. He was a school teacher from a tiny Himalayan village, and he mapped a forbidden empire by turning his own body into a machine. This is the story of who he really was, and why that border is still one of the most dangerous places on Earth. Act 1. The Great White Blank.
Picture ruling the largest empire on Earth. Steam engines, the telegraph, the most powerful navy afloat. And yet, on your own official survey map, right at the border, the world simply stops. North of the Himalaya, nothing. Blank paper. A country the size of half of Europe that you cannot see into. In the mid-1800s, Tibet was the most sealed-off place on the planet. Cross its border to draw a map and a foreigner risked being turned back, or worse. The locals who guided them faced brutal punishment. To the British Empire, this blank space was not peaceful. It was a threat.
Because Britain was not the only empire moving. From the north, Russia was pushing south through Central Asia. This is how the British press drew it. Their lion and the Russian bear, circling a small man in the middle. They called it the Great Game, a secret contest of spies for the roof of the world. London was gripped by one fear, that Russia would slip an army through some unmapped pass and fall on India from above. To defend the passes, they first had to find them. To fill that blank, they needed a man who could walk into Tibet and come back with a map. One officer of the Survey of India found a way around that problem. His solution was brilliant and quietly monstrous. Act 2. A School for Living Instruments. His name was Thomas Montgomery. His British surveyors were too easy to spot, so he flipped the problem. He would send local men, people the Tibetans would never suspect, and train them in secret for months at a survey camp in Dehradun. Their code name, the Pundits. First, the stride. And that steady beat you can hear? That is the rhythm they drilled into his legs. Every step had to be identical, calibrated to roughly 31 to 33 inches, and tuned so about 2,000 paces made 1 mile. He walked for hours, on sand, on rock, uphill and down, until the pace never varied. But you cannot count to 50,000 in your head and stay sane. So, they hid the counting. A Buddhist rosary has 108 beads. They built him one with exactly 100. Every 100 perfect steps, 1 bead slips. A full loop was 10,000 paces, about 5 miles, logged without a single written note. And to measure height, he brewed tea. Water boils cooler the higher you climb. On each pass, he boiled water and read the temperature from a thermometer hidden inside a hollow walking staff. From that one number, mathematicians back in India later calculated the altitude remarkably close for the era to the true height. Add it all together, and you do not get a pilgrim. You get a walking, breathing, surveying station wrapped in monks' robes. Now they pointed him at the most dangerous road on Earth. Act 3. The Road of No Return. Every pilgrim in Tibet carries a prayer wheel. Nayin Singh's was a piece of espionage. Where the sacred scrolls should be, he hid his survey notes and, by some accounts, a compass. Every spin, supposedly to cleanse his soul, quietly recorded which way he was walking. In 1865, disguised as a monk, he crossed the border toward Lhasa, the forbidden capital. And every second of the way, freezing at 5,000 meters, half asleep on his feet, he had to keep counting. 1, 2, 3, 99, 100. Bead down, lose the count, and months of work dissolve into nothing.
He walked for weeks. And then, at a crowded way station, the moment every pundit was trained to dread, a sharp-eyed old lama reached out and picked up his rosary to bless it. This lama had blessed 1,000 travelers. His fingers knew the weight of a real mala by heart, 108 beads. 9 Sings had 100. One roll of the beads through those fingers, and the old man would feel that 8 were missing. 9 Sing went still. Every step of this journey had been one long bet, and now the whole wager, his maps, his freedom, his life, hung on an old man's fingertips. The old lama turned the beads over in his hands. He weighed them. He ran a thumb along the string. And 9 Sing's heart stopped, waiting for the word that would end everything. Then the old man simply muttered a blessing and handed the rosary back. 9 Sing breathed again. He had passed. But not every pundit was so lucky. Let's be precise, because the myths here are ugly. Foreigners were usually just expelled, but their Tibetan helpers paid a terrible price. Years later, when another spy ring was uncovered, its local guides were brutally punished, and one never came back from the Sangpo River. That was the real price of a red line on a map.
Act 4. The Metal and the Silence. He survived. He did not just reach Lhasa, he lived there, in disguise, for 3 months. This is the Potala Palace, the Dalai Lama's residence. Nyen surveyed it by his pacing method. He fixed the true position of Lhasa for the very first time, and charted a secret stretch of the Tsangpo River. Back in London, the geographers understood exactly what they had been handed.
For it, the Royal Geographical Society gave him its Patron's Medal in 1877 and a lifetime of secrecy. For years, his name was hidden. In the reports, he is only the pundit, number 1. He did the impossible for science and stayed a shadow in the margins of a spy file. This stamp, in 2004, was one of the first times his own country showed his face in the open. But the empire did not use his maps for science. In 1914, building on decades of clandestine survey work that men like Nyen Sing pioneered, Sir Henry McMahon drew a border between India and Tibet. A red line along the high Himalayan crest. And that line is where this story stops being history.
Act 5. The line that still divides. You think this is ancient history? This border is far from settled. China rejects the McMahon Line to this day, arguing Tibet had no right to sign that 1914 treaty. In the east, it claims the entire Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh, which Beijing calls South Tibet. And the whole frontier, east and west, runs across high, unfenced ground where each side draws the line differently. So 2 nuclear powers keep colliding there, in the dark.
Clashes are routine. Deaths are not. Which is why the world froze in June 2020. In the Galwan Valley, in the western sector of that disputed frontier, a night battle with iron rods and stones cost at least 20 Indian soldiers their lives. China later acknowledged losses of its own. It was the first time in 45 years that lives were lost on this border.
And China's position on that 1914 line has not softened by a single inch.
2 of the world's most powerful armies still fight over a frontier that, 160 years ago, was pieced together from the work of a village school teacher. A man with nothing but a shortened rosary, a compass and a prayer wheel, and the nerve to walk exactly the same length with every step he ever took. Remember that thin red line at the very start? Every inch of it was counted on one man's fingers. We went looking for a footnote. We found the reason this frozen frontier is still one of the most dangerous places on Earth.
Everything you just saw was pieced together from the Royal Geographical Society's own journals and the work of historians Derek Waller and Peter Hopkirk. If this investigation gripped you, subscribe. There is a new one every time. Like the video, and pick your next story on screen right now.